the, what's the date? The June 18th workshop of the Clay County School Board will come to order. There are no citizens here. So welcome, staff.
Welcome.
You're welcome to speak. Okay, I'll turn it over to Mr. Davis, the draft agenda review for the regular meeting of June 28th, 2018. It's
Yes.
all yours.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It should be a short one on the light understanding through this. First one is the minutes for the workshop for May 29th and the student hearing for June the 7th. Information will be uploaded. C2 is payment for annual dues for the Florida Association of School District Superintendents. This is an annual expenditure. C3 is the annual payment for the 18-19 Florida School Boards Association. C4 is the personnel consent agenda. On this personnel consent agenda, you will see some new job descriptions. That is all linked to mental health. We, as you know, we got around $900,000 that was given to us to address mental health within every school district and within this organization. So this is where we will look at trying to identify some coordinators to bring on staff in order to coordinate the work. And we're looking at coordinator of mental health, coordinator of nursing, which is something that Ms. Heather said we probably needed to have, or coordinator of student engagement, and looking at some Medicaid data assistance to be able to help with mental health. Mr. McCauley, anything that you would like to add in reference to this conversation?
I apologize, I just got the state's rubric for how they're going to evaluate our plan, so I'm trying to translate our current plan into their rubric so that they check everything off. And basically it's going to reflect what the state is desiring is that we do a lot more partnership with community agencies, which we already have in Clay County, so we're blessed to have Clay Behavioral Health, Right Path, Children's Home Society. We have several that we're working with, so we'll look for ways to strengthen that relationship. One of the things that is probably most telling for us in Clay is giving an opportunity for some of our mental health connected folks a longer contract. So I will be eventually asking for some of my social workers, for example, to go from 10-month to 11-month. One to go from 10-month to 12-month, so I can have that summertime to do a lot of planning. Those are some of the biggest elements to what we're doing. We don't want to put everything into personnel and resources, so we're also looking at bringing in a student survey that will look at different elements of student perceptions, things like self-efficacy, belief systems that they're able to do the work, grit or resiliency, some things like that. I'll have all of that information available for you, and then we'll put it out there for bid to see who's got a product that will let us see that. This is particularly poignant for me today, given what happened over the weekend. The coordinator of mental health services is going to be critical to help me get all of this organized and coordinated so that we're more responsive to the needs of our kids.
Well, they Fleming Island.
We lost the student at Fleming Island.
You know, we can get follow-up.
Yeah, I didn't, still wanted to wait till the investigation is actually
Right.
completed. Right
CCSO
now.
is still investigating.
So there's a strong potential. So I didn't want to put that
Great.
stick close. He's going into 11th grade.
Are you talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
So that for me just really drove it home, because I don't have a lot of support staff helping me this summer, because most everybody's 10 months. And if I could get that would be awesome to help me work over the summer.
As far as the funding goes, is any portion of that the Safe Schools? Because I know we talked about is it 300,000, 400,000 that's designated for anti-bullying or some sort of?
No, there's, we have additional $300,000 that's gonna help us with the Community Partnership Schools initiative that we grew at Wilkinson Junior High School. We got an option of growing that greater, and we're gonna try to put that down in the Keystone area.
Right.
So other than that, there's money that will be embedded, we could use this from a bullying standpoint.
Right.
We wanna put a bullying crisis hotline together. And there was some digital platforms we were going to use and allow kids to signal in, report in, but we thought that that would just grow tremendously, and we wouldn't be able to manage it because it would.
I'd rather wait to
Yeah.
see, to see how those software programs work, let someone else try it out. To your question on the skill housing, we do have safe and, safe schools dollars, but because of the underfunded mandate to put SROs in every school, unfortunately, this year, those dollars are going, dedicated
That was
to
because
that.
I thought when we
Right.
had that discussion, you weren't able to.
We were
Yeah,
gonna
we were
try to
trying to
use
keep
it.
a little bit out because we're required to do some crisis management and all this stuff, but openly after speaking to school districts, they're gonna go pretty much all in with their money, and then we'll just have to explain it at the audit purposes, and then talk about how we're underfunded. So, that's what we're trying to hold a 3% reserve back to, just in case we didn't hit the
But we can
numbers.
still get a lot done with our mental health dollars, and, with Dr. Gutko's guidance, we'll make sure that we put the set aside, and the charter schools, of course, they will get their proportionate share, but they're, when I get all of this into the state's model for the plan, I'll send that out to you guys, you can see where we're going with it.
Just a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. McCauley and Josh did a phenomenal job at FSBA, and
They
I
work hard,
learned
they're
a
good people.
lot. And it was, it felt good sitting there and being part of your team.
I appreciate
And
you
it
guys
also
being there,
felt,
supporting us.
I felt like, wow, we're doing stuff that I have never realized that we are doing and that we're working towards, and it was a very
An
good
hour is always scary, because
presentation.
you don't know how much information you
Excellent
get. Thank y'all for
presentation.
coming to that.
Well, and it also created questions, which is very important.
I think, I was thinking back over the years, I don't remember ever having some of our staff down there doing a presentation. It made us very proud of Clay County. They did a great job.
Mhm.
And the content, you really could have used another hour just to continue covering.
And I
Because
was
there
gonna
were some
say, I
areas-
should have had a lot of.
Right.
Hey, just kept a minute, keep going.
No, then,
Chaos.
then you don't eat.
Can I ask a question about one of the job descriptions?
Yes, ma'am.
So on the coordinator of mental health services, my question is under required qualifications. We're doing an or, currently possess a Florida educator certificate in school psychology, social work, or school counseling, or a valid license for a mental health worker. And I just wondered why we wouldn't do both. I know that a lot of your staff in those positions has both.
I think that's a fair question. What I was trying to do was not, paint myself into a corner in terms of finding the right person to coordinate the mental health element of the work. A lot of mental health folks do not carry Florida Department of Education certification.
On the teaching side.
Correct.
On the non-teaching side, so,
Okay.
but I wanted both in there because I really wanted to be able to recognize if we had a social worker, a psychologist, a school counselor that already worked for our district and was
Yeah.
very interested in that,
Yeah.
to have them, but I also wanted to open it up to, outside mental health community agencies for someone maybe who has administrative experience organizing and coordinating that work.
Okay, I was thinking the other way. So my thought was, I think it's important for this person to get the mental health counseling from that licensed mental health side. And so that's why I was wondering about the or, not the way you were thinking about it. I was thinking about it from, if we have somebody within the school district who has experience working in this kind of work, but not necessarily having that licensed mental health counselor role, if they're gonna be working so closely with you and supervising the whole overall program, I think it's important to
They
understand.
have more of the mental health side of it
Yeah,
than
yeah.
the DOE side of it, if
Yes.
you will. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. That was my only question.
Any other questions? Proceed.
C5 is approval of our Florida Virtual School Franchise Agreement. This is where we allow Clay Virtual to exist and function. Currently, we have over 200 full-time students, around 4,500 part-time students, which is equivalent to around 750, over 700 students that we get FTE for. So this is just to bridge this agreement so that we can continue our body of work.
Have you named a new principal?
No, I'm gonna talk about that when we get the applications.
Okay.
Not as of yet.
I just didn't know if I missed it.
No, we're working. We want to get the right person.
It's a lovely being able to
This is a big time reporting. Okay, C6 is out of county travel. You see only one. Going to a state competition in Tampa. Theater techniques. C7 is the allocation for 18-19.
Oh, it's nice that they're doing
This is
that.
this is the document in reference to that you'll see. A lot of this is a wash. We're moving some personnel from gifted to ESE assistants to teachers in certain schools to another school. So it's kind of a movement in order based on needs for ESEs and for the bulk of this. There is here internally, you'll see where the ask is to create an assistant principal of CVA. CVA does not have an assistant principal, they only have a principal. And the perfect timing is that right now, this is a critical role within the school district, and you have to really understand virtual learning and understand making certain that you have the right students in the right courses and that you are reporting accurately so we don't use FTE. We do have an individual internally that has once created the greatest CVA initiative school within the state at St. John's. That is Steve Ambergy. So we're looking at potentially of looking at, could he take some of the roles and responsibilities of kind of continue his reporting. That what he does is does very important reporting avenues for us with DOE, but can he from the interim kind of cover CVA and then hire an assistant principal who truly understands the CVA work and then eventually evolve them up into that position once he gets them trained and allocated to the work. It's a very special skill set, so we just don't want to put someone in that position.
So you're not gonna fill the allocation for the principal, and Steve will do both jobs, is that what you're saying?
He'll take on some of the role of CVA, and then the assistant principal will do the bulk of the work. And then once we transition, if we get this assistant principal up and running, then there's going to be a potential successor in that position sooner than later.
And then when we eliminate the assistant principal position?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that something that he was willing to do?
We've had some conversations with it, so
I mean,
he's willing. Professor, anything you want to add?
Is that being
willing?
voluntold?
I think it's a fair
No,
question.
no,
He was
no.
worried.
No.
He was worried.
So this is one of the agreements. He believes he can get someone up and running that knows this work. So.
Sorry, but I trust
That's-
him more on this one.
Could be a lot
He's
of
got the
work.
experience.
I can't lose him in reporting because what he does in reporting is extremely important to the school district. So,
That's what drives our money.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
so the sooner we can get someone in that we know and he can train, the sooner that we can transition to a leader. Oh, and then we have a shop manager that we currently have. We have a lead mechanic that we want to delete and then add it to transition it to a shop manager. This is because we have someone early in the morning that's covering the shop from a managerial standpoint, and we don't have someone in the evening to cover it. So this is to make certain that we have appropriate coverage throughout the entire day within our shop. Doc, anything you want to add?
I said, it's needed, it's definitely needed.
Okay, C8 is our monthly financial report for March. C9 is deletion of certain items reports. Mostly furniture. C10 is pre-qualifications for contractors. Please stop me anytime. C11 is.
Oh, look at C12.
I'm not even talking. I'm gonna do C11. I'm telling you openly, I'm gonna do C11, and I'm gonna push back from the table and not address C12.
I thought we
You're gonna be
will
disappointed.
never come to us.
I'm sorry. We're on C11 right now.
I thought it was in the minutes that was never coming to us.
We need to all be invited to this ribbon cutting.
Everybody gets. Everybody in this room needs to be invited. That's
Give
right.
us scissors.
Everybody gets shovels, shit. That's right. Whatever you want in this ribbon cutting. All right, so C11 is the construction management firm award. Every year we get to a point where we award someone up to $500,000 worth of work. We have identified 3 individuals from a selection committee that can do this work in rank order, with Thomas May, Charles Perry, and Paris McCall. And this just allows us to be efficient with project scheduling and then we'll complete our work at a faster pace internally. All right, Doc, you're up on C12. I'm bowing out.
Well, we in facilities hate to disappoint anyone, but this really has nothing specifically to do with the ACE building. the soil erosion projects and the drainage projects we had at Fleming Island were already on the EFP plan for our, using our dollars for that. It saves us money to go ahead and combine this soil erosion project with the ACE project, saves us mechanical engineering, our engineering fees along with that. So it was a perfect time to do that, to save the fees, to fix the soil erosion and move the water lines that have to be moved, that needed to be done anyway. If you've ever been in the back of Fleming Island High School, you've seen, you know, we continually repair the storm drain failures, the erosion issues, the problems. So when the ACE facility came up, it gives an opportunity to save money, engineering fees and things, to not keep it a separate project. So it's going to be tied in with that. We save money by doing that. Anything else, Mr. Closer? My closer can help me here.
No, and actually, the good side of this is, on the school side, there is an actual deduct of $721 that
Yeah.
we took. Thank you, the stormwater and.
Thank you, Mr. Connell.
Mr. Connell.
The stormwater
Great
and
news.
other piping issues Dr. Kent mentioned were under investigation by the maintenance department. They were gonna hire a contractor to do it while we were under design, so we had our contractor give us a price in his GMP, and that way we have one person doing it in the same site, because we would have had someone else working
No.
underneath the building.
Sorry, disappointed.
And just forewarning, you will have one more, because there'll be a direct purchasing change order, which is routine for every job we do.
All right, y'all.
Thank you for the warning.
When do we
That's some
expect
good
it
stuff
to be
on that one.
completed?
What is-
Right about Christmas. Hopefully we'll get them in before Christmas.
Very good.
Weather is killing us right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh,
So
it's
rain,
gonna be
rain,
fine.
rain,
And the
rain.
storm drain
And-
thing,
and-
oh my God.
And openly, I'll say that this young man's been one of the best hires that we've had, so I'm proud he's on his team.
Young man.
You're welcome.
Yeah, we made a note of that, so we forget
It's in the minutes.
Somebody just had a big birthday.
Woo,
Happy
woo,
birthday.
22.
We won't say how big it was.
All right.
We'll just say
Jim,
happy
we'll
birthday.
have to compare. Wayne just had a birthday this past weekend.
I know he's older than me.
Mine is.
Oh, if you're watching, Mr. Mola, I didn't engage in
Otherwise, I
that.
think I can fairly
This
say
is being made,
I'm
remember,
probably
this
the
is on
oldest
video.
person in the room right now. Oh, no, sorry, never mind.
Hey.
Not order.
Out of order.
There you
Should I leave?
Yeah. Hold on, we got two
Sorry,
minutes.
yeah, right.
Hey, that's enough.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's proceed on, Mr. Connell is through.
Yes, ma'am. C13, change order for Discovery Oaks Elementary School. We're adding 28 days to the contract due to rain and Irma, so we want to make sure there's no money involved in it, but we just want to make sure that it's just a cleaner process where we get our 28 days that we need in order to fulfill the requirements to get the school up and running.
Are we gonna open on time?
We
Oh,
are.
absolutely.
Do we have a potential ribbon cutting date or not yet?
We're kind of talking about that now, and he keeps not wanting to give me that date because he
Under
wants.
promise. We're under promising and over delivering.
Is it August 14th?
Yeah.
We'll be cutting the ribbon soon.
It looks great.
For the record, I wanna say that they opened Argyle the week of student planning, or teacher planning.
Yeah, we're gonna.
We'll be
beat
in
that.
it.
We're gonna beat
I
that.
mean, it was,
We're gonna be.
We're gonna beat that.
Furniture's
from a
already.
teacher
Furniture's already
perspective,
in
it
the
was way
building.
tight.
Yeah, this place is rocking.
Maybe the week
Doc
before.
and
Yeah.
Ms. Connell have been champions in this work, or Ms. Bryce. All right, C14 is renovation of the science lab at Keystone Heights. This is just open to bid. This is where we're gonna get some great work to have gas, water, and air, being able to have accessibility that's aligned to our
You
curriculum.
can actually teach
And
science,
students
how
are
nice.
ready to go. Doctor, we awarded the bid yet?
We did.
Okay,
Who got it?
so drum roll.
Who
Yeah,
got
This
it?
needs to be updated, because I know it just happened.
Yeah, we'll be updating it before the.
Okay, before
Okay.
the.
All right, C15 is just our casualty safety, sanitation, we local fire safety inspection report. This is where we look at, we have outside local fire rescue come inspect with local team members. They look at lighting, fire sensors, they look at blockage of exits, emergency lighting, so we can have reports, so we look at ceiling tiles, so that we can make sure that we're up to par in reference to our fire safety inspection. So we got some areas to work on. Most of it's lighting that we have to fix, but we're working on it right now in order to make it happen.
Hmm.
Quick one.
What's it quick one?
On that item, Mr. Superintendent, I do want to note that by the 28th, the rest of the schools will be, all of our schools will be input into the computer. So it's just the time frame involved with getting things to the agenda. The SREP inspections will be there by the end of the year.
All right, D1 is appointment of board members and citizens of the Value Adjustment Board. Yeah, good to go. D2 is just special action. And D3 is back to the property casualty that we'll bring back, and we'll have a workshop that's.
Where are we having the workshop? Are we having it here, are we having it?
In here.
in-
Yep.
Yeah, I think I left all
25th.
of you a copy of the agenda for that
Yeah.
meeting.
Or do we think maybe an hour at the most? I mean, I'm trying to
Yeah.
think back in the past, it's really not very long.
Yeah.
Half an
But it
hour.
shouldn't, sure, Arthur Gallagher will be here to present, and, of course, any questions that you have, she'll be here to respond.
Great.
Oh, excuse me, can I plug this?
Go.
Well, this was the quickest ever.
Quickest ever. I got one more thing I want to show you. And I'm sorry if I'm not in the camera. I apologize for those who are viewing.
presentation.
All right. No, you are not.
Hour and a half.
No, you're not. Okay, so.
I saw the side
I got
of it.
jokes today. I got jokes today. No, ma'am, I do not. I'm a team player today. One thing I want to do is kind of show you data that has been recently released, and this data is going to be raw data, meaning that potentially it could increase. But I want you to be able to see that.
Could we,
I wanna
everybody
make
pay
sure
attention?
yeah.
No, I wouldn't say that.
I want, first and foremost, I'll give you some Clay highlights. From the Clay highlights right now, we are ranked in the top 10 and reading from 3 to 10. From the recent data, we moved from number 15 to number 9. And additionally, we moved in the top 10 in reference to 6 to 8 reading from number 14 to number 6. We moved ranked in the top 10 in the area of grades 3 to 8 in mathematics from number 16 to number 10. We still rank in the top 10 with civics and U.S. history. We were right there at the threshold. We are ranked in the 10th in 5th grade science from number 18 last year. Also in 8th grade science, we were 14th and we moved to number 8th in the state. And then we were ranked number 1 in the area of biology, and a lot of that's to strategic scheduling and getting the right kids in.
You're gonna send this to us?
Yes, ma'am. All this will be sent to you in an email that I will send to every employee in the school district as well. But I just didn't do it over the weekend because we want to make sure it's solid. So as you can see right now, from grades 3 to 10, we increased in the area of literacy by 2 points. We outpaced the state as they increased in 1. We stay stagnant in 3, 5 right now from raw data, where the state increased 1. If you can see in 6th grade in literacy 6 through 8, we increased 3 percentage points, outpaced the state. And then once again in grades 9 through 10, we outpaced the state as well in literacy in the secondary area.
Isn't that still 57%? I mean, am I the only one that thinks that that's still, we have a
Yeah.
long way to go? 57%?
Yeah, I think
we're
the
happy
state,
about
I mean,
it?
if you look.
It's showing increase, I understand. but-
Yeah, that's look at relatively speaking from the statewide perspective. When you have 50% last year, 51% in the state only proficient, it just talks about the complexity of the assessment, and it talks about where we are in relation to Florida, of how well we prepare our students. For us to be at 57%, it's really high. And I say it's high. There is definitely ways to go, and we would love to get into the 60s and the 70s, but it's just going to be an annual progression. We continue to prepare our students. I think a lot of this starts early, and we got to do a better job in the 3-5 and the K2. But I think the good thing is that you see lots of green, and when you see lots of green, you mean you're moving your school district. As it relates to the area of mathematics, we see from 3 to 8, we gain 2 percentage points, and we outpace the state. In the grades 3, 5 in mathematics, we increased 4, and I think this is a lot to do with our supplemental materials that we use with Eureka, for those who elected to use it. In addition, we use it iReady. And then you'll see that we increased the same with the 6, 8 in mathematics. One concern I do have is Algebra 1. But I will tell you what we did in Algebra 1. We did decline 5 percentage points, but I had greater accessibility for equity for kids. Historically, we have not allowed level 3 students in Algebra 1, and I thought it was best to allow kids to be exposed to this. What tells me is that I am okay with the exposure of these students being in Algebra 1 and level 3, because some can do it, and it just tells me that we have to have greater supports in place for teachers and greater supports in place for students. So that's an area that we will drive, and then we stayed neutral in the area of geometry. So we know that these are two areas right off the bat that we have to really focus on, along with the area of 3 to 5 literacy. But lots of green on this document, which is really attractive and overall.
Can I
And-
make a point to Ms. Karakis's comment
Yeah.
as well? When you're looking at that 50%,
Sorry, I'll go back up.
57%, and I was going through some of the data over the weekend as well, and when you're looking at the top school district, St. Johns County, they're at approximately 70%.
Right.
So when you're talking about the difference, I mean, it's a 13% difference, but it's interesting to look at all of the counties, all 67 counties, and to be in that top 10 is huge. I'm sorry,
It
but that's
is.
huge,
It's big. It is.
huge in
Oh, no, and
comparison
I'm
to the
certainly
whole
very
state.
proud of it and
That's-
commend,
Yes, ma'am.
Mm.
Well, it's just the
Mr.
hard
Davis
work.
and all our staff.
It
But
yeah. Overall, if you look at the number,
just
that
in
means
that 43%.
so from and we talk about it all
Yeah.
the time from an educator
Yeah.
standpoint. It means 43% of our students aren't proficient,
Right.
Correct.
which is
Correct.
which is
Which is a
we.
But-
big number still.
It is
But
a
you're
big, it's a
still
large
dealing with
number,
a
so we would
large
love
number
to
of
cut it in
students,
half. We know that St. John's is, I guess the minimum, purchase of a property over there is probably around $380,000, $90,000, $400,000.
They're
Makes
at
a
they're
difference.
at the top of their,
Yeah.
they can't do anything.
Yeah,
more
so I mean,
to
from
help
us, we're
themselves.
going to continue to close the gap between us and them, and with a different demographic in reference to we serve. But this is all truly indication of the hard work of our teachers
Mr.
and the
Dave.
staff. Yes, ma'am.
On the Algebra 1,
Yes, ma'am.
and then no change in geometry, I haven't had a chance to look at that in other counties, but do you look at other counties that perhaps went up in those areas and maybe inquire or
Yeah,
someone
I mean,
find out what are they
I-
doing that we
Yes,
maybe are
ma'am.
missing?
I can only tell you that we could have taken 72 and made it 75 this year if I would have kept the same cohort of
Right.
kid in there. I
Mhm.
am
We'd help more
completely
kids.
honest.
Right.
If I would have said only 4s and 5s can stay in Algebra 1, we would have increased without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
We just had too much left everywhere else. But by us coming in and us saying we just want more kids to be able to have a chance to compete, because Algebra 1's the gatekeeper how well someone will do as they transition to college. And if we continue to backlog them having accessibility, then we don't give kids hope. So here, I'm not okay with the number. I own this number. Schools don't own this number. I, as superintendent, own this number. But I still fight for what I did for kids, and I think I will do it again next year and just have greater supports.
I also think there's a whole lot about high stakes testing.
Right.
That a kid, if a kid just doesn't test well,
Right.
they could
Kid doesn't
have an
want
A
to
the rest of
test.
the year. They don't do well on that
That's-
one
that's true.
test, and it brings them down.
That's
That's
true.
not a great measure of how well we teach algebra.
I'll also make a point too, if you see in 2016, we were 62, then we jumped 10
Yeah.
points.
72,
And so
yep.
we're still above where we were
Yeah, it's a
2
good
years
point there.
ago.
It's a good
But
point.
we've opened that door for more level 3s to
And
Actually
you've
good.
allowed those students who maybe they weren't allowed to take
Yeah.
Algebra 1.
Yes, ma'am.
And they felt like, well, I think I can do this. No, you're not allowed because of that test score.
Yes, ma'am.
To me, opening the door and saying, we'll give you the chance.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the
Yeah.
more important part.
So we'll have some good boot camp work going on. We'll do we'll leverage some curriculum sides and look at some intervention sides and figure out we need to be able to have more intentionality within that. One thing we did do very well this year, or we offered within our master schedule guidelines, is that we double blocked kids who were in Algebra 1 and A and Algebra 1B. Those are more kids who are needing intensive needs. So it tells us that we've got to figure out how we better support teachers to help gain access to kids with knowledge.
Additionally,
about-
I'll say as well, the PERT will no longer be an avenue for kids to
Yeah.
get their algebra credit starting this 9th grade cohort.
Yeah.
So the more that you can get the opportunity in the 8th grade to get another shot at that assessment, because they will not have the PERT, which is, a lot of our students utilize that as a way to meet that requirement. So it gives them another opportunity early on.
So when was that decision made that they can't?
Actually, it was made in May.
May,
The
yeah.
State Board of Education voted on that May
Yep.
16th.
Yep.
Right.
So in coming in
it's-
cohorts, it's gone.
And that really impacts school districts financially, because the PERT costs $1 per student. This costs what,
Oh,
50,
it's-
60
yeah,
bucks
60.
a kid?
Yep. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
It's all about the dollar, isn't it?
That's right.
What about geometry?
Geometry. So I mean, we're just flat. Flat isn't exciting, but this is raw data. So once we take out some of the students that may not count that are here, that maybe we should see lift in that number. This is once again that we need to do some intense professional development. We did a lot of professional development in the area of literacy this year. The good thing is you see the math numbers are somewhat stagnant in some of these areas. We are going to focus this entire year on math and science. So last year was all literacy. We'll still focus on literacy, but we will go deeper into understand the mathematical shifts of the standards. And we're looking at rigor, looking at coherency, and looking at true focus of the content. And that will allow us to get some lift. And that starts actually tomorrow with our principals. And last, to show you, I believe, well, two more. So here we are with civics, and I want you to look at the civics numbers. To be in the 70 and 78 range is extremely high across the district. So I mean, it's really high. So for us to, if you look at, I mean, you can do the comparative analysis of the state. That's a great separation. Usually you have 2 or 3 percentage points from the state, but we have such great work going on in civics. I mean, it's hard to duplicate. We got really strong teachers in those content areas. And you look at U.S. history, that's a great work there, a nice little bump. So you kind of wash out in the area of social science. And some of the greatest things we focused on this year was science. And we knew that we decreased in science. If you remember my state of review, I talked about how 3rd grade and 5th grade science was really low. And this gives us an opportunity to continue to show that our work, we did speed bags, we did really analytical work. And you see, I would tell you it's an all-time high in biology, and this is all based on scheduling. It'll be very hard to duplicate that number next year, but we will be well above this number that we'll focus on next year.
27%
Now, when you say it's based on scheduling, didn't we move it?
We
for
did.
our
So we had
level?
so many kids that were taking biology, just weren't really able to pass the assessment. So we really focused on putting environmental science before in the area of 9th grade. So we have more kids taking environmental science, which has a lot of the biology strands embedded into it. So that gives them a chance to compete. So next year they'll have a better chance of going to biology and be able to be successful in the course, and also be successful on the EOC assessment as well. So I will tell you openly that number will be very difficult to match, but it's systemically better for kids to get them exposed to biology content because it's a very complex course.
I've even heard from some, science professors that biology should be an 11th or 12th grade course, and you should start with physics and chemistry.
We put in, so this is new for us, but lots of greens and lots of excitement for this county. So I'm excited to see how we come out in school grade in a couple weeks.
I have a question based on something we heard at FSBA. Our U.S. history AP courses, do they take the EOC as well?
AP courses,
Some schools do offer them to take it, some schools do not. They do not have to by state rule, but some schools do offer that.
Yeah.
There used to be a way, and the state did away with it, used to get your scholar diploma based on the number of EOCs that you passed. And U.S. history is one of them, so kids used to take it in order to get that seal.
Yeah.
The state did drop that for those students who are in AP courses. They don't have to do it, but schools still opt. Not all of our schools do it, but some do.
Does it help them? If they
It
choose to do
typically
it,
would
does it
help them
their
because you have
schools,
higher
which is
level
their-
kids taking
right,
the U.S.
right.
history.
Yeah.
So I can see why they would continue with it.
And your AP kids are taking a ton of tests anyway.
Yeah, our
Right.
tests, we're trying to
They're
double
test
up.
takers.
So all that to say is, it's so far it's raw data, but it's trending up, which is exactly what we wanted to be.
Our graduation rate helps with this data.
Do you
That's good.
3 points up.
3 points up.
Hey, take my stick.
Yeah, I had a phone conversation.
Do we have enough data for this?
No,
Do
take
we have
the
enough
one off
data
the
for
menu.
schools to start looking at what we're-
Did you hand this out?
We're trying to play with it now.
I know that
Schools do a good job of
I
signing.
know they do,
Do you have
that's why
agendas?
I'm curious if this is
Yes, ma'am.
sufficient
On our
data
last
to-
Not for
agenda,
them.
last month, we had advertised both the student progression plan and the code of conduct.
Okay.
And normally, we advertise 1 month and we approve the following, but it's not on this agenda. If we're holding it till August, are we bound by any specific amount of time? Like we approve it for advertisement and then have to approve within a certain number of days? Or is it open-ended?
I don't know if we're bounded by days or not. I believe that it can just progress as, you can start the year, I say that, you can start the year without being approved.
No, I'm talking about, we advertised last
Right,
month.
oh, you're talking about putting it back
so
on? I can
It
find
should be
it.
on the next agenda.
Well, we
What
have
was
to-
the
It
beginning?
was the student code of conduct and the
Yeah.
progression plan.
We
So we did a
advertised.
public
Did we do a
Right.
public hearing on it?
That was the
No.
one where you
Or advertising?
advertised, and
No.
I think there was a 30-day.
We
So
have,
we put 30 days, you need a minimum of 21, right?
But is
So-
there a max? That's my question, because it's not on this agenda.
Is there a max? What do you mean by that?
Well, they're holding, if
Can
we
we
hold
wait
off
2
until the
months
August
before we
agenda,
approve something
it will
that
be
we
60
brought up
days.
last month, is the question.
You can approve after the expiration of the 21 days, okay? It's as simple
Anytime
as that.
after
Okay.
the
So,
expiration.
so if there is, the 21 day, of course, is, in advance, if anyone wants a hearing on it. And you have to open up a public hearing anyway. So that you let 21 days expire such that, anyone who wants to be heard can, advise, the school board through the secretary. And you hear whatever it is that needs to be said by that requester, during that time. So, no, what counts is that you have 21 days, that you have a minimum of 21 days expire.
Okay,
So-
Well,
that
is
was
there
my
any-
question, I wasn't sure if it had to be approved within the 30 days, because
Oh, I see.
that is how we've always done it, we've
Yeah.
never advertised 1 month and then
Yeah.
approved 2 months later.
What?
Oh, I got it.
We can bring it.
I got you.
It doesn't matter to me, I mean, I know there were a few changes and
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
McCauley may have some work to do
Is
on
there,
it,
is there
but I
a
wasn't
rea-
sure legally if we
Is
needed
there a
to.
reason that it wasn't on this?
Well, we were
agenda?
just trying to make certain that I was there, but I mean, if it's anything
Okay.
that, there's
Oh,
a
this is
pause we
the
can
one
add.
that you're not
Yes,
gonna
ma'am.
do.
Dr.
And
Kemp's
I
gonna be
just
asking
sent
David.
those ads, and I don't think I'm having them run them until June the 28th, so we're running the ads a little bit later.
And
So
are there
you
any
still-
time restraints with that
You
when
still
we
have,
approve adoption?
we still have the 30 days, we still have plenty of time.
So we can approve advertisement and we don't have to advertise in any set amount of time.
You need to advertise at least 21 days. You need to have 21 days expire.
I understand
Between
that,
the
but
ad.
I wasn't sure, because normally we would approve for advertising and then the following Tuesday you would send off the ad to start in the,
So in other words, the advertising's been approved, but we haven't
Goes out.
advertised yet.
so if
And
it's
once the
on a mission
advertising
later August,
happens, we have
It's
to
fine.
allow 21 days.
That's
And
correct.
so once the
Yes,
advertising
sure.
is done on the
Appreciate it.
28th, you said,
Yeah.
then that would allow 21
20
days. And at that August meeting, that will be the end, past the 21 days.
Right.
We will have advertised, we will have opened it up. So technically, it's not open yet for public hearing.
Right, it opens.
Correct, okay.
Yeah.
So now,
So it'll be
so
on
they
the
just
August
delayed the
agenda.
advertising to meet
So it'll
the
be on the
August
August
deadline.
agenda, we certainly want you there,
Cool.
Mr. Davis.
Now, you guys remember the last time we had alterations to the code of conduct? Parents were very upset about how it all played out as far as notification to them, and
That
that was
was-
not under your leadership.
No, but that was only
That was the
because we
dress
changed
code.
the elementary
Right.
dress code, that wasn't,
So you don't think that we need?
And we've always had changes throughout the years and never had any response to it other than the dress code.
Okay,
This
Yeah.
new version's
I
really
don't
solid.
anticipate anything, yeah.
It's really good.
I think that was more parents not
As I
paying
recall,
attention.
it was-
And what we did was, they had gone shopping for back to school.
No, I know.
You snuck it in?
Yeah.
No, we didn't sneak it
No,
in.
no,
Brought
they
clothes
didn't know
that
to
my
it, then
kids
they
couldn't wear.
said this you gotta wear after you go shopping?
Well, they just,
Well,
the
they-
parents I spoke to said, if you're going to change the code of
Principals
conduct,
weren't
would you please
consistent with the law.
notify us? So, and I know it was relation to the dress code, but
Mhm.
I think maybe just a memo that there've been some changes to the code of conduct, make sure you pay attention to it. It's
And-
not a bad thing to do.
And once we, through the chair, once we get to a point where we're ready for approval, we'll launch it all on social media, on websites, so that they can interact with it.
Dr. Legato? Well, I couldn't read your
Oh,
lips.
I'm sorry, I was just saying, if there was an issue, I have my July 23rd budget workshop that we could tack onto it if there's a timing issue,
Oh,
just so
okay.
you know,
Mhm.
I was just offering.
I think we're okay though.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does sound like it's an issue.
Okay.
And I only brought it up because of how we normally do it, I
Right.
thought we had 40 days to do it within, so.
And you all have on your calendar,
Mr. Daggett, I want you.
did you wanna say?
I just, I don't wanna
can't
forget that, I don't wanna forget the, best and brightest Deetson thing,
Okay, but,
whatever you want me to bring that
we're
up.
through with everything, there wasn't anything on your, the Art Gallagher item that you wanted to.
No, it's the workshop, and once
Okay.
the workshop's done, then of course. there'll be
Okay, so, Mr. Daggett, you wanna bring, we're through with the agenda, so
Yes.
you're on the attorney remarks.
Yeah,
now.
so, as I mentioned, I think individually to each of you and, through the board chair, I'm going to be requesting additional money for, Mr. Dietzen, the Rumberger firm, in our representation in the FEA federal lawsuit, the Best and Brightest lawsuit. We had put 10,000 in, for representation, now he's representing 27 school districts. So the economy of scale is very good for us.
Mhm.
But we're gonna be running out of that $10,000 that's anticipated by the end of July, okay? So I am going to, again, through the chair, add to the agenda what you saw in October when we first infused $10,000 for the representation. And I'm gonna ask, I'll just say for another $10,000 or $15,000, it'll be up to the board. I just wanted to make that clear.
To the
And we
chair.
got a great dismissal, I know we're in litigation here, but I'm gonna tell you this. There was a $300 million damages claim against all 67 counties, all 67 school districts. And in June, Judge Hinkle basically kicked that claim out of the entire lawsuit, so it's all going to be declaratory and injunctive relief. Meaning, we are going to be told what to do by the state, by DOE, when it comes to best and brightest, just like we did before. We have to administer best and brightest as DOE tells us. So that was a very, very good outcome, and I did distribute that dismissal order to the board and to the superintendent when it came out. So thank you.
School board member remarks?
I'm gonna have a request for some information to back up our millage request.
Okay.
And I don't know if I should send the request through you
You
and
can.
say, can we get just some data together?
Sure.
Because I know that there are going to be a couple of neighborhood meetings that I'll be going to.
Yes, ma'am.
And when we're invited to those, we want you to come and we want you to talk about the
Sure.
following.
Yes, ma'am.
And I've had the request, so I wanna make sure that I have some data that can literally outline what
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
doing, why we're asking for it. Not the safety side of it as
Right.
much as the operational side of it.
Yes,
And the
ma'am.
need for what
Yes,
we
ma'am.
haven't received
Right.
over the past 10 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And how we've grown over the past 10 years. So I'll just make a note of that
Yes,
to
ma'am.
you, just so you're aware. I don't know
Yeah.
if anybody else is interested in
I
that
think
as
we would
well.
all like to have that.
The other thing is, this is the sort of face of what we're doing for our legislative, requests from the school board, the
Priorities.
Florida School Board Association. And I might give this to you, Nicole, and say, we're starting now in the Florida School Board Association for our legislative priorities. And when we come up to the Clay County selections and ideas that we're going to need to start generating as well for the legislature, I don't know how expensive something like this is in relationship to what we did, but, something a little bit more eye-catching and just an idea,
A
just
couple
an
months ago,
idea.
I had asked that we go ahead and start.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
It didn't go anywhere, so.
We'll-
But I'm
we'll sort of
backing
remind-
that up with
Let
you
me
now,
ask
so
you
I'm
something.
backing up your request.
Now that the millage will be on the ballot.
Yes, ma'am.
By 4-1 vote, what I want to know is, when are we going to discuss a game plan or a plan for how we're going to, inform the public and tell them just what Mary was saying, but how are we going, we've got, June and,
We just have to.
July and August.
That's it.
And we
It's the end of
need,
August.
we can't just fumble around here and say it's gonna be on the ballot. We need to have some kind of organization as to the message.
And I think one of the reasons the
And I
message.
didn't know how we wanted to do that. Are we gonna
Mhm.
sit and talk about it in a public meeting or whatever your plans?
Yeah, so I'll take any recommendation this board wants to provide. So, I have thoughts, but I look to you to start the conversation, then I can help you through that process. But I can help.
One
you.
of my concerns is that I'm seeing it a lot in public, in Facebook and in other areas, and it's a lot of the negative.
Yeah.
And it's fine to be negative about voting against a tax increase, I get that.
Right.
However, the information that's out there is inaccurate.
So-
And that's where I get frustrated, because I'm like, I wanna immediately,
Well,
and I'm
and this
thinking,
is where-
that's not the way
this
to
is
do
why
it,
I
we need to
asked,
do it a little bit more
We need
succinctly.
to have our ducks in a row, to explain to the voters the need for this and why and so forth. And I didn't know how you wanna go about
Right.
doing this. I
So-
mean, are we gonna get on the board floor and talk about this, or?
We
or-
could do, I mean,
What do you wanna do?
through the chair, I'm gonna need this board to work with me to tell me what you want it to be like and what you want to see. I mean, we will do our work on social media, we can go back in the community, we can go talk to every, community group that we can. But at the same time, I need this board to tell me how you predict you will spend the additional funding that's going to be, placed. I know about 2 months ago, I gave a number of items that we had for other expenses that we could use. But I need everyone to tell me how that will be, how that money will be used overall, the $10 million, so we can articulate that collectively to our community.
I think the important thing would be to show all the many needs that we
Oh,
have
yeah.
and not earmark any one specific thing. Of course, we're going to put
Sounds good.
towards safety, part of it, and then
Right.
earmark everything else that we've got. I mean, we know
There's so much we need.
we're in dire straits with insurance.
Mhm.
You know, the insurance is probably our number one priority as a district, number two next to safety.
Right.
So, I
Can do
would go
that.
through and list every area that we are under, struggling
Yes, ma'am.
for funding. Because it goes into the operating budget.
Yes, ma'am.
And the hardening of the schools, plus because this is only a 4-year millage, it may continue after that, but we know it's only going to be 4 years. We have to build up our reserve fund
And it does say in statute.
so that we can eventually become, I mean, we've talked about, as a team, we've talked about wouldn't it be nice to be self-insured? Wouldn't it be nice to, and we're grappling for the money. The bottom line is we're grappling for the money. A lot of people are looking at this and saying, well, you've been getting money all along, and even though the millage rate for the required local effort is going down, the cost of our homes has been going up, so there should be a balance there, and there's not.
And the county
And
commission's
that's-
millage has increased for county.
And that's why they
And
put it on
and they
us,
don't
and Mike
understand
Sala
that
said
that-
that, you know, you guys haven't been doing it.
It does
They
say in
don't understand
statute.
that the RLE, the required local effort, which is the biggest part of our millage, we have no control
We don't.
over that. That is set
No, that's
by the
set by the
state.
state.
And they don't understand that basically, really, we have no real control over the millage.
We're in the need, what was the total number, when we looked at you were talking about,
facilities.
if we looked at the facilities need alone,
Oh, 284
It was
It's
million.
200, about 280, about right at $284 million, but
and we're talking
Right.
that is
$10 million.
immediate, that is immediate need. I mean, I would
Yes.
be more comfortable to say it's about $300 million in need
I mean,
as we
wow.
continue to grow, and that's with the combination of all of our funds. I mean, that's not just if we were blessed enough to pursue some type of sales tax,
And-
but also have, our existing funds that we have. We've been cut every year since
Mhm.
2008. We don't receive anything additional from the state for facilities.
The other side of that is that, people and I use social media as an example, only because that's where I'm seeing some of the comments coming out as well. But a lot of people are if you say, let's round up to 300 million, because we know the cost of these things are going to go up over the years. And they're looking at the cost from the sheriff's office as being, just 5 million, and I'm thinking, it came in, guys, at 5.6, and he has knocked that up and knocked that up, so every time you guys meet with him, it's like, we need that additional person, and until that changes or that comes into reality, a reality check, whatever, we have to assume
Well, you-
6 million, that's my.
I mean, I
Well,
think
see,
that
the thing
you're
is,
accurate
like
on
on
the
Facebook,
numbers
they're
gonna
saying,
increase.
well, it's only gonna cost 1.5 million, so why do they need
We're
10?
talking an
I mean, they're not
additional
even
$4 million
understanding what the
perhaps,
facts
maybe
are.
5, that we get
Yes,
from
ma'am.
this, plus we're also not getting this money until
2020.
2020.
January 2020.
Yep.
So it's not something that, you've got the money now.
No.
I mean, I've heard people talk about the number of portables at our schools and how our schools aren't full, and I'm going, whoa, wait a
Yeah,
minute, we
sure.
haven't built a school in 10
Yeah,
years.
they-
Our population has increased at least by 2,000 students.
Yeah, that's an
And
accurate
And
information too.
where else are we gonna put these kids? I mean, and when we open the borders, and I'm still getting complaints about, it used to be that I could get my nephew into the school, or I could bring my child. And I'm thinking, the state has changed that, the rules are different, I'm sorry. But, our schools are virtually full, so.
They are.
So like the number of students, the number of schools that we actually have had over the last 10 years, that was the other question, the property taxes that we have received. And has that number gone up each year, has that number stayed, static for those years, or has it, whatever?
Did that.
We just
Yeah,
need,
and
we
that's,
need-
and
but
it's
that's.
We don't even
yeah.
receive the full amount of property
Right.
taxes.
we,
What's the
we
percentage
need,
Well, I'm talking about the millage
Oh,
that we're
well,
using.
we're supposed, by law, we are required to budget at least 96% of
Right.
that. Used to it
Yeah.
was 95.
But when reality, what do we
We
receive?
would receive a little below, 2 years ago, it was like about 94, 93. It's slowly edging
Yeah.
back up to that 96%.
well, we need data and we need talking points,
Mhm.
because we're all out in the community and people are asking us now, this is, this safety, this whole safety thing is at the forefront of everyone.
Absolutely.
And,
Somebody
but
had-
we need talking
Yes, ma'am.
points, we need to know, and, you know, like, they don't understand that this millage always goes into the operating budget, but listen to what he just said about monies needed on the capital side.
Mhm.
And this operating money, God forbid if there's extra, we could help out on the capital side with that.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
mean, it can move over. I mean, there's so many needs, you just don't know which hole to plug first. But we need to have a game plan, or this isn't,
Yes, ma'am. I'll
we've
have
got
some,
to help
Chair, I'll
ourselves.
have some information to try to capture to you in within the next week,
Yeah.
beginning of next week, or by the end of this week.
I mean, if whether it be articles in the Clay Today, the Times Union, on Facebook, because they're killing us on Facebook, the little group of naysayers. And it doesn't
And it is
matter,
the same
it
group.
doesn't mean that the information is
30 people.
correct, it's incorrect information, but they believe anything that's written. So we've got to confront this.
Somebody did have a millage chart over the last 10 years, and it showed what the county commission has received and school taxes and all of that. If you could print something like that up and send to the board members, that would be helpful.
Yeah, anything you can send us.
And I know that the max, Susan, do you know what the maximum is? I mean, I think we could actually go
We can go-
for, is it
We
for
could go up to 10 mils.
10 mil.
10 mil?
Mhm.
And we're at
And we're
6
at
right now.
6, yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're
And St.
asking for
John's,
one.
for instance, is at 10.
St. John's is at 10, which is.
They are
Even,
at 10.
even with a mill bringing in.
And they're
what
going
it
to
does,
have to
but-
build another school
Yeah.
every year until
Mhm.
2024
I
or
read that,
something.
because they're putting in
I
a
mean,
brand
I'm
new
sorry.
development that.
Through the chair, I think it's important that we show the community how we're doing as compared to other counties. I mean, when you think about how
That's-
we're not only underfunded from the state, we've been significantly underfunded from the county on all revenue opportunities,
And
which is,
these
which
should
is
have-
millage, which is even with the impact fees. I mean, we're significantly, if we're gonna continue to compete, and, you know, we're doing well
We're
with the
doing
little
well
that we
now,
have,
yes.
but if we continue, if we wanna compete and become number one, we're going to have to look at all revenue streams and show to the 67 counties what the other counties have. Our kids deserve the same opportunities and the same revenue, same streams, same things that the other counties are gonna get, especially after November. When the November ballot comes out and the other schools have already gone with all the other revenue incentives, I'm anticipating 64 of the 67 counties to have some type of additional revenue stream,
Yes,
sales
yes.
tax or millage.
Well, and I felt like I had to bring this up because
fair.
here we're sitting, you know, midway through June, and we haven't done anything.
Mhm.
We had to get it passed first.
Right, now we're good to go.
But
Well,
let's get this show on the road is what I'm saying.
it-
We've got a short time to do great
Mhm.
work.
And one thing we asked us to put in there is potentially incentivize teaching positions at hard to fill positions or at
Yes.
schools that are underperforming. But we're looking at the analytical data, we have 2 schools that, one particularly I am extremely, and won't talk about today, I'm extremely concerned about, so.
Mhm.
We have lost a lot of teachers at the end of the school year. I think someone told me 6 math teachers just from Oakland High School, and some of them are moving to Georgia because of the health insurance and they're like more teaching, and then we have others, you know, they're giving it one more year to see, you know, what
If
we
we can
do,
do
if we can help, because we're gonna lose all our really good teachers. Which is sad.
Okay,
We're good?
One more thing, Dr. Legutko had given me, she showed me a chart that I talked about last month that said that I believe we're number 11 from the bottom of what we received in the base student allocation compared to other districts. And it's based on, you know, well, it wasn't the base student allocation, it
Full
was
FTE.
the full FTE, based on our taxes compared to others, so.
we need to see that.
I mean, you can add that to what you send out too.
Did the compression allocation help with that?
This year,
We're still under the
it's
state
still
average.
under, it's
Yeah.
part,
Did it
when
make
you look
us
at the
whole?
formula, the BSA is above, the compression is additional dollars.
You could only add $100 per student, and some students, you know, that set amount is for students that receive every accommodation.
Oh,
So that's what that number is, and most of our students don't really receive every
Right.
accommodation,
No, they
so we are under still, even with.
under
that.
the state average?
Yeah, you would be because of the size of the county. The
Right.
large districts
That's
get the majority. In fact, they have that the other, that Volusia has been fighting where the money gets taken from the small counties to the large
Yeah,
counties.
the sparsity.
And that's happened before, we've had that.
Sparsity.
It happens every year.
Every year.
And it won't change.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, is there anything else you want to discuss?
No, ma'am.
Okay, meeting adjourned. We do have